tell you about the greatest political hack of our era. European governments have discovered a magical shield, a brilliant trick that lets them push the most draconian, racist, dehumanizing, anti-immigrant policies without ever being accused of racism. And the secret is disarmingly simple: put a non-white face on it. Appoint a brown or black minister, preferably with a refugee story somewhere in the family, and let them announce the policies a white politician wouldn't dare say out loud. Because the modern state has simply perfected what colonial administrations mastered long ago, ruling through intermediaries. Only now the stage is domestic rather than imperial, and the intermediaries are the children of immigrants recruited to police the very borders their parents once crossed, and if they hadn't and weren't let in, they wouldn't be standing on that podium. And nowhere is this cynical tactic used more shamelessly than in the UK. Let's take a tour. First came Priti Patel, daughter of Ugandan Indian refugees who spent her time at the Home Office criminalizing the very pathways her own family once relied upon, all while running a personal side hustle in foreign policy with Israel behind her Prime Minister's back, and who now resurfaces periodically to reaffirm her devotion to Benjamin Netanyahu, proudly posing beside a man accused of war crimes as though it were a badge of honor. Then came Suella Braverman, born to migrants from Kenya and Mauritius, who spoke of asylum seekers as though they were an incoming plague and treated deportation flights in Rwanda like a spiritual calling. Her tenure was a crusade against protest, civil liberties, multiculturalism, and above all Palestinians and their supporters, every assault neatly wrapped in talk of security and anti-Semitism. Under Rishi Sunak, himself the son of immigrants, Braverman became the perfect political instrument, brown enough to deflect accusations of racism, right-wing enough to thrill the Tory grassroots, and ambitious enough to shout publicly what older grey-suited white conservatives only muttered privately. And now, under Labour, the same script, softer voice, same cold heart. Shabana Mahmood, Britain's first female Muslim Home Secretary, fronting proposals so punitive and morally obscene that even conservative legal scholars are blinking in disbelief. Her reforms would remove the state's legal duty to provide basic shelter or support to asylum seekers fleeing war and persecution. Imagine risking your life, crossing the channel, only to have your watch confiscated, your wedding ring seized, your clothes taken because they're deemed too expensive, your children barred from school, your shelter withdrawn. These are policies that violate not only international law, but the most basic instincts of human decency, yet they're delivered through the comforting optics of a Muslim woman with immigrant roots. And the trend doesn't stop with government. Even far-right parties have learned the trick. Reform UK, home of anti-immigrant hysteria and dog-whistle Islamophobia, has built its most important public persona after Farage around Zia Yusuf, a polished Muslim frontman who speaks loudly against immigration and proudly in favor of Israel. A Muslim face delivering white nationalist arguments, a brown shield for a movement rooted in racism. Farage and Richard Tice understand exactly what they're doing. A Muslim surname condemning illegal migration makes the far right's message sound respectable to people who would otherwise recoil. And as far right agendas surge across Europe, centre-left parties in Britain and beyond are dancing to the same tune. If you can't beat them, join them. And if you can't join them gracefully, lurch right until nobody notices the difference. In this landscape, minority recruits are not symbols of inclusion. They're human shields behind which racist policy proceeds unchallenged. Look at the cast list. Figures like Kemi Badenoch, building their brand on strict borders, cultural assimilation, and the supposed failures of multiculturalism. Like James cleverly echoing securitized migration rhetoric that sits uneasily beside their own family histories, as though immigration began with other people's parents and not their own. Their presence makes it harder to call out the racism embedded in policy, because the response is always the same. How can it be racist if the spokesperson is brown or black? But this is exactly the logic colonial administrations relied upon. They appointed local chiefs to enforce the empire's will, to do its dirty work. The European officer could stand at a distance, polished, paternal, insulated, while local intermediaries collected taxes. enforced labor, and delivered punishment. These intermediaries often became more zealous than their masters, desperate to prove loyalty and secure favor. But their prominence never obscured the machinery of repression behind them, the state that held the real power. Today, instead of colonized majorities overseas, Western governments use minority figures at home as political armor. They absorb the criticism, deflect the outrage, and allow policies of exclusion and punishment to move forward untouched. Representation has been hollowed out and repurposed as camouflage. Diversity without justice is decoration. A brown face doesn't sanitize a racist policy. A Muslim Home Secretary can still enact Islamophobic measures. A child of immigrants can still slam the door on families fleeing war. To strip away the theatrics, the skin tones, the surnames, the symbols. Forget who stands at the podium, Michael or Muhammad, Peter or Patel, Shirley or Shabana. It doesn't matter whether they're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Hindu, agnostic or atheist, whether they wear a cross, a hijab or a turban. The only thing that matters is the policy. Is it just? Is it humane? Is it lawful? Does it protect the vulnerable? If not, then the color of the hand delivering it is irrelevant, because injustice does not become moral simply because it happens to be delivered by a brown or a black hand.